My daughter's name is Lily. The memory of her laughter, bright and unrestrained like a handful of spilled glitter, is a sound I will never forget. I used to think my family was normal. Not perfect, not a Hallmark movie, but normal enough. I thought we were all on the same team, that love was our unbreakable foundation. I was wrong. It took a single phone call, a family vacation, and a betrayal that felt cold and clinical for me to realize that some bonds are more fragile than you could ever imagine. My story is about the day I discovered my family was a lie I had clung to, a story I told myself to feel safe. Before I dive into my story, I'd really appreciate it if you could let me know where you're watching from in the comments and if you'd consider subscribing to my channel. It would mean the world to me and help me keep sharing more stories like this. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Sarah, and until last month, I thought my life was a normal kind of chaotic. I was a single mother, 35 years old, still rebuilding my life after a quiet, heartbreaking divorce. My daughter, Lily, was 7, a little girl with a fierce love for stories and a laugh like a handful of spilled glitter. We were a team, navigating life's everyday hurdles, and I was fiercely protective of our little world. My parents, Robert and Alice, and my older sister, Chloe, were the extended part of our world. We weren't a picture-perfect family from a greeting card, but we were family. We did holidays together, exchanged gifts, and shared memes about the exhaustion of adulthood. I never felt a deep connection with my sister, who had a picture-perfect life with a successful husband and 2 boys. But I always tried to convince myself that everything was fine, that their quiet preference for her family was just my imagination. The crisis began with an email. It was from my CEO, a last-minute request for me to fly overseas for a critical business meeting that couldn't be done remotely. This was the break I had been working toward. A chance to secure my position and finally give Lily the financial stability she deserved. But the trip was immediate, and my ex-husband was out of the country. I had nowhere else to turn but to my parents. I called my mother, my voice laced with a frantic kind of hope. "Of course," she said. "Don't be silly, dear. Bring her over. We'd love to have her." I felt a wave of gratitude so strong, it almost brought me to my knees. My parents lived 10 minutes away, and Chloe's family was already staying there for a few days. So I thought it would be a perfect play date for the cousins. Lily packed her own little overnight bag, carefully placing her favorite worn-out teddy bear inside, and she drew a picture of me on a rocket ship with a sparkly Band-Aid on the front, saying it was to make me feel better. When I dropped her off, I found the house in a chaotic but happy state. Chloe's boys were running around the front yard, their laughter echoing loudly. I found my mom in the kitchen, already overwhelmed, trying to make dinner while keeping an eye on the boys. Chloe, standing by the counter, barely looked up from her phone. I gave my mother my credit card, telling her to use it for anything Lily needed: groceries, a movie, whatever. My mother waved me off, smiling, saying, "Don't be silly, we'll take care of everything." That was the last time I saw Lily's trusting face for a very long time. My first 2 days on the trip were a blur of meetings and presentations. I called home every night, but no one answered. The first night, my mother sent a text saying, "Busy, she's fine, resting." The second night, it was a similar message. On the third day, my messages went unanswered entirely. I called and called, leaving voicemails, each one laced with a little more panic than the last. My sister Chloe didn't pick up either. I told myself it was fine, that 4 kids were a lot, that I was just overreacting. But the knot in my stomach tightened with every passing hour. I couldn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, wondering if Lily was asleep, if she was scared, if she was wondering why I hadn't called. By the 7th day, the final day of my business trip, my anxiety was a physical weight on my chest. I called again, this time with a video request. I needed to see my daughter. I needed proof she was okay. The call connected, and my heart hammered in my chest. But it was Chloe's face that appeared on the screen, her expression irritated. My eyes darted past her, and my blood ran cold. The background was not my parents' living room. It was the deck of a cruise ship, with crystal blue water stretching out behind her. And in the distance, I could see my parents holding tropical drinks, laughing, their faces lit by the setting sun. My parents were on a vacation. "Where's Lily?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Chloe just sighed and said, "She's fine. She's with family. We'll explain when we're back." And then the call ended, leaving me in a silent hotel room, staring at a blank screen, the sound of my heart thumping in my ears. I took the first flight home, my mind reeling with 1,000 impossible scenarios. I drove straight to my parents' house, the knot in my stomach now a solid freezing block. The house was dark, the minivan gone. I knocked, waited, and knocked again. Nothing. That's when I saw it. A piece of paper taped to the front door, slightly crumpled, slanted. The ink was faded, as if it had been there for a while. It said, "Sorry, sweetie. We made other arrangements." She's fine. There was no signature, no phone number, no explanation. I stood there, reading those words over and over, trying to make sense of them, as if they might rearrange themselves into something other than the most cruel and baffling phrase I had ever read. Other arrangements. My mind went blank. I didn't remember getting back in the car. I just drove. My first stop was Child Protective Services. I walked in, still wearing my travel clothes, my mind numb. I gave them my name, my daughter's name. The woman behind the desk asked me to wait, and when she came back, her face was grim. "Your daughter, Lily, was dropped off 4 days ago," she said softly, "by her grandparents. They didn't leave any emergency contact, any signed forms, just her name and a note." I could barely nod. The world was spinning. "She's with a foster family now," she continued. "They said she's safe, a little withdrawn, but okay." Okay, I nodded again, like that was supposed to make me feel better. When I finally saw her, she ran to me, her face crumpled. She didn't ask where I'd been. She just kept saying, "I'm sorry, I was good. I tried to be good." That night, she wouldn't let go of my hand, not when we got in the car, not when we got home, not even when she fell asleep, curled beside me under the blanket her dad gave her last Christmas. I sat there listening to her breathing, one hand on my belly, one on her back, and I kept thinking, I thought we were a normal family. I thought they loved her. Ellie stayed close those first few days. Too close. She wouldn't let go of me. Not for a second. She followed me to the bathroom, the laundry room, the front porch. She even stood outside the shower, asking every minute, "Are you almost done?" She didn't talk much, just curled up beside me on the couch, clutching her stuffed cat like a shield. I let her. I didn't ask questions she wasn't ready to answer. At night, she woke up crying, not loud sobs, the quiet kind, the kind that soaks into a pillow. One night, I whispered, "What are you thinking about?" She said, "They said I was too much." I said, "Who did?" She didn't answer. I made us pancakes the next morning. She stared at them, then whispered, "Grandma told me not to be fussy." My hands started shaking. I was trying so hard to stay calm, to keep everything gentle and steady, but I was unraveling fully, quietly. I still hadn't heard a word from my parents, from my sister. No check-in, no explanation, no apology, just that note on the door and a silent phone. On the third day after I brought Lily home, I went digging. I started with my bank app. I hadn't checked it since the hospital. I opened it, expecting maybe a grocery charge, some gas, a Target run. What I saw instead were back-to-back charges from a cruise line: airfare, rental car, 4-night stay, spa service, multiple room service bills, a boat tour, all from the Caribbean. I just stared at the screen, scrolling, my thumb frozen. They used my credit card, the one I gave them for Lily, the one I handed them like an idiot, thinking they'd spend it on juice boxes and peanut butter. I told myself there had to be a mistake. Maybe someone stole it. Maybe it got hacked. Maybe. And that's when I opened Instagram. I don't even know what I was searching for. I clicked on my sister's profile. There was a story highlight titled "Family Vacation." A group shot my parents, my sister, her husband, all three of her kids smiling with the ocean behind them. The caption read, "Family vacation before school starts." Family. Not one word about Lily. Not one clue she ever existed. They left my daughter in foster care and flew across the ocean with my sister's kids, and then had the audacity to call it a family trip. I felt something snap, cold, clean, like a rope breaking. I called my mom first. No answer. Then my dad. Then my sister. I tried again and again. Finally, my sister picked up. I didn't even wait for hello. Where is Mom? Oh, she's out by the pool. Why? You left Lily in foster care and went on a cruise. A long pause. Then she said, We didn't leave her in foster care. We just couldn't take care of her. Okay, you were in the hospital. We had this trip planned. It wasn't ideal. I couldn't breathe. You abandoned her. She's fine, she snapped. You're blowing this out of proportion. Where is my daughter in your photos, in your family vacation post? Where is Lily? She's not my kid, Hannah. I went silent. That hurt more than I expected. She kept going. You're being dramatic. Mom was overwhelmed. The kids were already packed. What were we supposed to do? Cancel the whole thing? Yes, I said. Yes, that's exactly what you were supposed to do. She's not a baby. She's 8. I hung up. My phone rang less than a minute later. My mom. I picked up. Her voice was chipper. Honey, I was going to call you. When? My voice shook. When exactly were you planning to tell me that you left my child in the care of strangers and flew to a luxury resort using my money? She went quiet then. We didn't know what else to do. We were overwhelmed. Lily is not easy. Not easy? My voice cracked. She made you cards. She packed her own bag. She did everything right. She cried all the time. She didn't want to eat. She asked for you nonstop. I couldn't handle it. She's a child, and I was in the hospital. My mom's voice turned cold. Well, maybe don't get pregnant again if you can't handle it. I laughed, actually laughed, that bitter, breathless kind that comes out when nothing else will. I'm done. I said, don't be dramatic. Save it. You already made your choice. Hannah. I hung up. Lily was on the stairs. I hadn't realized she was listening. She looked at me and said, Grandma's mad. I walked to her and knelt down. No, Grandma's not mad, but I am, and that's okay. She looked at me for a long time. Then she asked, Are we going on a cruise to... I felt my throat tighten. No, I said. We're doing something better. The night I filed the police report, I didn't tell anyone, not even my husband. It wasn't revenge. It was reflex. They used my credit card to fly to the Caribbean while my daughter was in foster care. I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I just opened my laptop and wrote everything down. Dates, screenshots, charges, the note on the door. I submitted it online and went to bed with my daughter's hand curled around mine. The next day, things exploded. It started with a voicemail from my sister. No greeting, just you out of your mind. You called the cops on Mom and Dad while they were on vacation. What the hell is wrong with you? Do you have any idea what you've done? They're humiliated. Then came the text from my mom. The police came to our hotel room, our room. Hannah. We had to explain ourselves like criminals. I hope you're satisfied. I stared at the screen. I imagined the knock on the door, the surprise, the panic, the way they probably looked at each other. Still wearing leis, holding cocktails, pretending nothing was wrong. And for once, I didn't feel guilty, not even a little. That night, I opened Instagram and checked my sister's profile. She had deleted the cruise highlight, but in its place, she posted a long, blurry paragraph over a black background. Sometimes, people will ruin your peace just to punish you for telling them a no. Sometimes they'll call the police and weaponize your pain. But the truth always comes out. 38 likes. 2 comments. I took a screenshot and filed it in the folder I was quietly building. They came to my door the next morning. I saw them through the window. My mom, my dad, and my sister, all standing on the porch like some warped family portrait. My mom held a reusable grocery bag. My sister was already fuming. I didn't invite them in. I stepped outside and shut the door behind me. Hannah, my mom said, we need to talk. You had your chance. You humiliated us. I folded my arms. You left Lily. My sister cut in. We didn't abandon her. We made a decision. It wasn't easy. You went to a beachfront resort, I said flatly. On my dime. You handed my daughter to strangers and then ordered room service. Dad's voice was tight. We thought she'd be fine. She wasn't. She thought she did something wrong. She cried every night and none of you cared. My mom stepped forward. We care. Of course, we care. She's not easy. Hannah, you know that. I froze. What did you say? She's difficult. She gets overwhelmed. She cries over everything. She wasn't adjusting. We thought it would be better for everyone. I laughed. You thought foster care was better. She needed structure. My mom snapped. I took a step closer. She needed love, not a punishment. The door behind me opened. Lily stood there hugging her stuffed cat, looking straight at them. My sister smiled like she was on a stage. Hey, sweetheart. Lily didn't move, didn't speak. My mom softened her voice. We brought your things, your book, your brush. Lily said, why didn't you come back? The silence that followed felt like gravity. My mom blinked. We thought it was best. Lily looked at me. Can they go? I turned to them. You heard her. You're seriously doing this, my sister said. You're cutting off your entire family. I'm protecting my daughter. From what love? She snapped. From people who've always been there. I stared at her. You weren't there. I opened the door and stepped back inside. Then I shut it. That afternoon, they went nuclear. A check for $1,000 showed up in my mailbox. No note. Just the check. Memo line, for Lily with love. I wrote void across the front and taped it to the trash can lid. My mom texted me. Pregnancy hormones make people irrational. You need to calm down. I blocked her. That night, while Lily was asleep, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I picked up. Miss Porter? This is Natalie with Child Protective Services. We received an anonymous report expressing concern about your home environment. My stomach dropped. They claim you've been emotionally unstable, isolating your daughter, and retaliating against family. They described you as vindictive and erratic. Of course, they did. I stayed calm, answered her questions, offered references, medical documents, even Lily's school counselor's contact. I told the truth, every word. She said, thank you. I'll follow up soon. I sat in silence for a long time after that. Then I opened the folder again. It was getting thicker, more screenshots, more notes, more proof. They thought I would break, but they forgot this time I wasn't alone. The next night, I was cleaning up dinner when I heard the front door open. Lily ran to the hallway. I followed, tired, expecting a draft or the delivery guy. Instead, I saw my husband. He was home. He dropped his duffel bag and caught Lily as she jumped into his arms. Her whole body relaxed for the first time in weeks. Mind if I... He looked at me and said, I'm not going back. We'll figure something out. And just like that, I knew the three of us were going to be okay. But the people outside our door, they had no idea what was coming. For a few days, it was quiet. After the CPS visit, the angry voicemails, and the social media meltdowns, my parents went dark. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits. I started to think maybe they were finally done. But manipulators don't disappear. They wait, they regroup, and then they come back with a smile. It started with an envelope in the mail. No return address, just my name and my mother's handwriting. Inside was a card. Let's talk. Don't let this tear our family apart. There was a photo tucked in. 2. Lily, maybe 4 years old, sitting on my dad's shoulders. I'd taken that picture. It was one of her favorite days before she knew what betrayal looked like. I threw the card away, kept the photo. Not for them, for her. That night, my sister texted me. You've made your point. Now undo it. They're breaking. I didn't answer. The next day, my parents sent a flower arrangement to Lily's school. Pink roses with a note from Grandma and Grandpa. We love you and we're sorry. Her teacher called me concerned. Should I send them back? No, I said, just throw them out. That night, Lily asked me, did Grandma bring me those? I nodded. She said, do I have to say thank you? No, baby. I said, not this time. Then came the neighbors, Mrs. Kaplan from across the street stopped me while I was loading groceries. She gave me a tight smile and said, "You know, sometimes it's good to forgive." I blinked at her. "Excuse me." "Your mother came by. She said you were going through something, that you might not be thinking clearly." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "Did she mention the part where she left my daughter in foster care?" "Mrs." Kaplan's smile faltered. "Well, no, but she said it wasn't as bad as it sounds." Of course, she did. After that, the messages got more frantic. "You're ruining this family. Lily needs her grandparents. Think about how this will affect her long term. We've supported you your whole life. You always overreact." Then came the classic. "You'll understand when you're older." I am older. I'm older now than I ever wanted to be. Then my mom showed up at my work. I saw her through the window of the main office standing there with a container of banana bread, like this was some kind of reunion episode. I didn't go out. I asked the receptionist to tell her I was unavailable. That was it. But that night, Lily came home with a note in her backpack. No name. No handwriting I recognized. Just a sticky note tucked between her notebooks. "Don't blame your mom. She doesn't mean to keep us away." Lily handed it to me with wide eyes. "Is this from Grandma?" I didn't lie. Probably. She didn't say anything after that, just quietly went to her room and shut the door. I sat at the kitchen table for 20 minutes before my hand stopped shaking. Then I changed every pickup password at her school and called the principal. He didn't even hesitate. "We'll update her file. No contact, not even a wave." The next morning, I woke up to find sugar poured all over my front porch. Not a little, a mountain. There were ants crawling up the steps, swarming the doormat. Taped to the door was a ripped page from one of Lily's old drawings. Just one word scribbled across it in thick red marker: "Liar." I didn't report it. I just cleaned it up and kept the page. My husband sat me down that night. He'd been quiet for days, letting me take the lead, letting me decide how far to push. But now he looked at me and said, "We need to end this all the way." I nodded. The next day, we made a plan. We found a new place, small town, fresh start. We didn't tell anyone where we were going. We packed in silence while Lily played in the living room, humming to herself. The only thing I left behind was a small white envelope taped to the front door. Inside, a copy of the note they left when they abandoned her. I wrote 3 words underneath it. "Now you understand." We left at sunrise. Lily fell asleep in the back seat, her cat in her arms, the picture from the fridge tucked into her backpack. I didn't cry. I didn't look back. Not once. But before we crossed the county line, I pulled over at a gas station, opened my phone, and logged into the police department's online reporting system. I uploaded the note they left, the screenshots, the bank records. I didn't add commentary, just facts. When I hit submit, I felt my hand stop shaking for the first time in weeks. Fast forward 10 months, they were charged. Child endangerment and fraud. No jail time, but fines, a record, and a court order, no contact with Lily ever. We moved. Quiet town, small house, lemon tree in the yard. The baby came early. Healthy, loud, perfect. Lily calls him Captain Yawn. She reads to him every night. My husband works from home now. He makes breakfast, sings lullabies, leaves love notes in my coffee mug. She's okay now. Really okay. Last week, she taped a drawing to the fridge, the 4 of us standing under a big yellow sun. She titled it Our Real Family. And sometimes when she thinks we're not listening, she looks at her little brother and whispers, "You're safe now. That's all I need."